Hey everyone, today I'm talking about INFJ personality types and driven behavior. I know a lot of my videos apply to INFJ and INFP personality types. This one, there might be some INFPs out there that resonate, but it's really going to be mostly INFJ personality types. Driven behavior is a behavior that's linked to perfectionism and control issues. And INFJ personality types tend to really struggle with perfectionism and control issues a lot more than INFP personality types. So this is mostly for the INFJs out there. However, there might be a few INFPs who also resonate with it. Now, most INFJs that I've talked to at least are well aware that they struggle with perfectionism, that they struggle with control issues. However, a lot of us are unaware how this is linked to driven behavior. And that's because driven behavior is something that usually happens unconsciously. It happens on autopilot. We just do it. We don't think about it. We usually engage in it when we're under stress. And the more stress we're under in life, the more we will go towards driven behavior. So what is driven behavior? Driven behavior is intense, repetitive activity that doesn't accomplish much. That's it in a nutshell. It makes us feel very busy and usually very stressed, but it doesn't produce much substance. Now, you might be engaging in driven behavior because of your workplace. This is really common in toxic workplaces. It's busy work, but it's not just busy work where you're doing it to look busy when the boss comes around. A lot of the time, it's accompanied by micromanaging from a boss or a manager or even another coworker. But there's this sort of environment and this mindset in the workplace that you have to be busy all the time and that every task you do is very urgent. It's very important. Everything is a fire to be put out. There's no calm, leisurely way to go about doing work tasks. Everything is an emergency, and it was an emergency yesterday. So it always has this very panic, rushed, hurried, sort of fear-based feel to it. Driven behavior feels like it has to be done right now. It's already late. Bad things are going to happen if you don't do it. Again, that's very common for toxic workplaces. A lot of INFJ personality types, however, bring this over into all of our lives, whether we're at work or we're not, whether we're working for someone else or we're working for ourselves, or it's not even a work-based activity precisely. It might be housework that we engage in driven behavior with. It might be just checking our email, right? Or helping out our friends, or working with our family, doing things that meet our family's needs, right? So it can extend into many areas of life. It doesn't just have to be a job, career thing. Driven behavior can show up anywhere in a person's life. And it is intense, repetitive activity. So I mentioned email. Email is a big one. Checking email over and over again. Feeling like you have to answer every single email as it comes in. Feeling like you have to bend over backwards to get the person not only what they need, but 10 things that they didn't need, but that would be nice, right? Having to do a perfect job at answering emails. Checking social media. Checking social media can also turn into driven behavior, especially if you're a solopreneur and you feel pressure of, well, I have to show up on Instagram every day, or I have to show up on YouTube every week. I have to show up on these platforms. I have to be producing content. Content creation can easily turn into driven behavior when it becomes intense and repetitive. And maybe you're not actually making anything new. You're not actually filming the video. You're not actually writing the article, but you're checking. You're checking your accounts over and over. You feel like you need to check your numbers. You feel like you need to reply to every single person who comments without fail and immediately. That's driven behavior. Making lists when lists aren't needed, or you already have a perfectly good list. Usually people who engage in driven behavior have a to-do list that's a mile long. And what happens often is that they will move the goalposts with that to-do list. So they'll get things done, they'll cross things off the list, but then they'll just add more and more to the bottom. So the list never ends. And there's never quite a feeling of having accomplished anything because that to-do list is always being added to. People who have a problem with driven behavior, instead of saying, okay, I'm going to do 3 things today, doing those 3 things, feeling accomplished, feeling happy, feeling proud, they'll do the 3 things, They'll get done by 1 or 2 o'clock in the afternoon and say, "Ooh, I got done earlier than I thought. I thought this was going to take all day. I knocked out my 3 things. It's only early afternoon. I'm going to add another 5 things onto my plate, or another 3 things, whatever it is." But then they'll add more on. They won't let themselves be finished. They won't let themselves have that feeling of done. They won't just take the rest of the day off and say, "Yeah, I got done early and this is great. Now I can take a walk. Now I can go to the farmer's market." It's nothing like that. It's much more like, "Oh, now I have this free chunk of time. Let me cram more work into it." Driven behavior, again, it's linked to perfectionism. It's linked to overachieving. It's linked to workaholism. So there will always be that drive to add more and more to the plate. Organizing what is already organized. That's another hallmark of driven behavior. So the closet's already been organized, but I'm going to organize it again. My email inbox has already been organized, but I'm going to organize it again, right? So we're like rearranging things, reshuffling things that don't need to be organized. And again, checking on tasks that don't need to be checked on, all right? Like I published my video for today, or I published my article, or, I did the thing, but now I'm going to go back and I'm going to check. And I'm going to check again, and I'm going to get kind of obsessive about it. Driven behavior has a very obsessive feel to it. So driven behavior, the thing with driven behavior is that it masquerades as work. On the surface, it seems like we're doing something. We're keeping busy. It feels like we are staying productive. And usually INFJ personality types who really are entrenched in driven behavior have a strong attachment to feeling productive. Feeling productive is how they earn their self-worth, or how we earn our self-worth. I'll put myself in this category as well. I really also struggle with driven behavior. And when you feel productive, you feel like you're pulling your weight. You're being useful. You get to exist here, right? It's okay for you to exist because you have value, because you're being productive. And that's how you define your self-worth, is how productive you are. How much progress you're making, how much closer to your goals. People with driven behavior are really into goals. Goals become everything. So this really can masquerade as work, as progress, as being productive. However, driven behavior is an illusion. It's not actually being productive because not much actually gets done. Like I said, it's not actually writing the chapter, writing the article, filming the video, right? Making the phone call to the government agency you have to deal with. That's not driven behavior. That's getting stuff done. Driven behavior is this relentless checking and circling and reshuffling, and it has a very unconscious feel to it. So when you come out the other side of the driven behavior, not much has actually gotten done, right? The chapter didn't get written, the phone call didn't get made, but you checked your email 12 times, right? It's also really characterized by rushed energy. Driven behavior is unconscious, so it's rushed, it's distracted, it's hurried. Someone who is in the grip of driven behavior is moving through things very quickly. They may have trouble remembering what they did that afternoon, where the time went, right? They just were sort of in this hole of obsessively checking things and reorganizing things and working, but again, not much actually got done. This is because we're really checked out when we're in the grip of driven behavior. We're not listening. We're not slowing down. We're just plowing ahead. And if someone comes in and interrupts us while we're in the grip of driven behavior, we can become very snappy, very irritable. We won't listen to anything they said. We'll just want them out of our space as quickly as possible. We might even snap at them and say, "Hey, get lost, I'm busy," right? It's a very rushed, hurried, get out of here, dismissive way of being with other people because we're so focused on driving ourselves forward. This driven behavior gives us a feeling of getting things done. But what we're actually doing, the real purpose of driven behavior, we're avoiding. It's an avoidant behavior. It helps us check out. It helps us go unconscious. It helps us avoid dealing with things that we really don't want to deal with, like emotions, like uncomfortable truths, like being in our bodies. When you're in the grip of driven behavior, you are not going to be in the body. You're going to be all up in the head, racing thoughts, really focused. And I always say, you know when you're in the grip of impatience and driven behavior, if you're sitting at your computer, you're sitting at your laptop or your workspace, and you're actually leaned forward. You're almost up like out of your chair a little bit, and you're leaned forward like you want to jump through the screen. right? And you're very focused on this email and this social media account, and you're tense, right? Your elbows might be at your side, your shoulders are usually up by your ears. You might be breathing in a very shallow way. Your chest might be constricted. You're in kind of an awkward position where you're not able to take deep, full breaths. And like I said, you're almost lifted out of your chair a little bit because you're straining forward. Usually when people are in the grip of driven behavior, we're straining forward toward the future. We're trying to get out of the now. We're trying to avoid what we're feeling right now, where our bodies are right now, what's happening right now. It's an avoidant behavior. And INFJ personality types frequently will avoid things by going into the future. And driven behavior is one of the ways that we can do that. It also usually depends on meeting someone else's needs. Sometimes we're engaging in driven behavior for something for us to meet one of our goals, but a lot of the time it's centered on someone else, right? We are answering emails from other people. We are doing these little mundane tasks for our boss in the hopes of pleasing them. We are making sure the housework is just so ostensibly for our families, right? So in our mind, we say, I have to do this. This is necessary. This should be done. So person A will be happy, person B won't complain, person C will be satisfied, right? A lot of the time when we start peeling back the layers on driven behavior, we can see that at the root of it, we have in mind that we're meeting someone else's needs and that we have to do that. We are fulfilling some sort of role or function that's expected of us. And again, in that way, we're earning self-worth. We're being productive for that person and we're being useful to that person. Or that group. Like I said, it might be your family. It might be your entire team of coworkers. It doesn't just have to be one person. But the root of it, we have this mindset in our head that we're doing this to be useful and to be productive and to pull our weight. When we're in this grip, again, we can't slow down because we believe we don't have time. That's the impatience piece. When you have impatience, you believe you're victimized by time. There's not enough time. I don't have time. I don't ever have time to do anything I want. I have to devote my time to this. I have to spend time doing this, right? So there's a very real feeling of being victimized by time. And that will come up a lot with driven behavior. And we will say to ourselves, I don't have time to slow down. I don't have time to be in my body, feel this feeling, deal with this uncomfortable truth that I am trying to people please my way into self-worth. It's also addictive. Driven behavior is very addictive for INFJ personality types because we can go on autopilot. It self-soothes us in a way. It does tend to be repetitive. We can go into the thinking part of ourselves, which tends to be soothing for us as well, and we feel needed. We feel like, oh, this is a valid way to spend my time. And other people would approve of me spending my time in this way. So I'm okay. If I keep checking my email, doing the housework, scrubbing the bathtub until it gleams, right? Doing all of these little tasks that my micromanaging boss wants me to do, someone's going to be pleased with me. I'm pulling my weight. I'm earning my self-worth, and I'm okay. It's actually much scarier for INFJ personality types to say, I'm going to take the whole afternoon and work on my novel. Or I'm going to take the whole afternoon and go for a walk in the forest and then just kind of bum around and I don't really know what I'm going to do after that. That's much scarier for us to have open blocks of time that we're spending just on ourselves, just on our own creativity, just on our own wants and needs. That can feel really uncertain to us and that can feel very threatening. Driven behavior is a known quantity, right? We can anticipate the outcome, we feel in control, and we feel like we're doing something useful. So when we try to detach from it and we start working on shifting out of it, it can cause anxiety and panic at first because we'll feel a little bit lost at sea. We don't have these repetitive activities to prove to ourselves that we do get to be here, we do get to exist, we have value as humans, and we have to start looking elsewhere for how we define our self-worth. That can cause a bit of anxiety. We've come to depend on this constant cycle of distraction and busyness in our lives to be our avoidant coping mechanism. If you're interested in saying, how much am I using driven behavior to avoid in my life? Look at the level. If you have a really high level of driven behavior in your life, like you're doing it all the time, that's kind of you from sun up to sundown. You get out of bed, you start relentlessly working, you don't stop until you fall into bed that night. You're avoiding pretty big things in your life. If you have a small level, if you're like, well, I just kind of get sucked into a hole for a couple hours a day, trying to relentlessly clean the house or check my email, you're probably avoiding smaller things that are bothering you that you're not really looking at. So you're having these little spurts of driven behavior, and they will usually happen when something occurs that you want to avoid. So you might get a phone call from your mother, and it's relatively short. You talk to her for 10 minutes, but you've always kind of had a toxic dynamic with your mom. And you get off the phone and you don't feel very good. In fact, you feel really out of alignment. You feel maybe kind of emotionally slimed. And you feel like there's something there for you to look at with your relationship with your mother and how you relate to her, the dynamic between you two. But that feels like too much. That feels overwhelming. So then you go into cleaning the house. Then you go into organizing your files. Then you go into checking your email. Then you go into checking social media, right? So it's this little spurt of driven behavior to avoid this somewhat minor issue in this day, this phone call with your mom, that's actually linked to a much bigger issue that needs to be looked at. So how do you identify driven behavior in your life? If you're like, I kind of think this is me, but I'm kind of not sure, how do you identify it? Listen to your loved ones, the loved ones you trust, not your toxic, narcissistic mother, but your partner, your children, your friends, the people who care about you, they value you, and they love you. Listen to the statements they say to you over and over. Do they say, did you hear me? It seems like you're not listening. You seem stressed, or that's a lot to take on. Are you sure you want to add that to your plate? Are you sure you can do that too? And you find yourself saying, oh yeah, it's fine, I love it, or I want more work, or I'll volunteer at the church. It's okay, I'm already volunteering at 3 other places, but I'll make it all work out. When you find people questioning you and saying, are you sure you can take that on too? It seems like you're taking on a lot. It seems like you're very stressed right now. Can I help? Is there anything I can do? Slow down and look at yourself and look at how you're feeling and see if driven behavior is coming into play. Keeping a journal of your feelings is also helpful, right? So you get off the phone with your toxic mom, instead of checking your email and checking social media, when you can identify, ooh, I don't really feel good, something doesn't feel right, sit down for 10 minutes and journal about it. Journal about how you're feeling and see what you can discover there. Also, taking a good hard look at your schedule and saying, what can I cut down? I am busy, I am stressed. What can I cut out of my schedule to make it easier and lighter? If this video was helpful to you, please like and subscribe to my channel. I really appreciate it. It really helps out the channel. Please also subscribe to my newsletter. I send out all sorts of updates through my newsletter, writing, intuition, creativity, personality type, all sorts of good stuff. So please subscribe to my newsletter. The link is in the comments below. Thanks so much for watching. I'll see you next time.